And I will now call on Cindy. She has done a lot of work on stress management, and she'll tell you a little more about it. She is currently a teacher in the Toronto District School Board and has won a number of awards for her outstanding teaching. Cindy, all yours. I hope this is not causing you any stress.
Yes. Thank you and welcome everybody. I honestly have to admit that this is a great pleasure to speak to you about this topic, because I think in many cases stress is one of the factors that can undermine our kids' success and our kids' resilience. And we want to, as parents and as educators, support the growth of that rather than it having a diminishing effect. One of the things that I would like to first point out is this particular resource, Stress Lessons from Stressed Out to Chilled Out. It's actually part of a larger group of resources and studies that are available to you online through the Psychology of Canada Foundation. They have a gigantic website, and not only do they focus on stress, but on many other programs and supports for you as a parent, for young children as young as the age of 2 and 3, and all the way up and past the high school years. So the resources are actually quite tremendous. The work that I've done with this organization was to be part of the consulting team that wrote this resource, so that is one of the reasons why I'm focusing on it and using it today. I've also brought a full copy of that if you have any interest in looking at it later. However, you can also download the resource in its entirety online. The work that's done through Psychology of Canada Foundation and on Stress Lessons not only is grounded in a tremendous amount of evidence and research, but it also uses an inquiry-based approach, and it has had a background of not only interviewing and using the stories and background of many, many students, but parents, educators, people that deal with careers, guidance, and so forth. So they have actually researched and looked for evidence, advice, and professional background for everything that they have done, and are focusing very much on what is most important for 21st century living, and how we can then best support the mental health of our children and students as well as their academic health. One of the things that's very interesting as part of this is the study about the teen brain. And a lot of the study about the teen brain is actually very, very new and groundbreaking. And having a better understanding, and for our children having a better understanding of how their own brain works, and for you as parents having this understanding would be tremendous. One of the things I almost wanted to do with this slide is put a yellow construction hat on top of the brain. Because, for the most part, the brain is under construction for many, many more years than you might otherwise think. And that is one of the key determining factors in how stress may or may not affect your child. Looking at the 3 parts of the brain, the amygdala is our security guard. It's where our flight and fight mechanism comes from. And it takes precedence over the prefrontal cortex, for example, which is the planning part of our brain, the part of our brain that makes executive decisions, that helps us follow through with decisions and choices. But if that gets blocked, if our limbic system or if the amygdala is blocking our ability to access that prefrontal cortex, then we are stressed. We are stuck in a reaction mode, and we are then going to respond in a fight, flight, or freeze way. When we are calm, that filter is open. We're more receptive to information. The information flows freely, and we're able to problem solve, plan, and have self-discipline and self-regulation. Now, the interesting thing about this is that often we make assumptions that aren't in fact true. And what I'd like to do is point out especially questions 2 and on. We used to think that the brain was completely formed, when might you say? Would you suggest by the end of childhood, by age 5, or at the time of birth? So let's see a show of hands. Would you have considered that the brain was formed by the end of childhood? By age 5? At the time of birth? Okay. In actual fact, the brain is fully formed, if we go a little farther down to question 5, would you suggest it's 25, 21, or 19?
25.
25 is the case, yes. So our brains are, in fact, under construction for the first 25 years of our life. So when parents are saying, oh, they used to be so self-directed, or I don't know what's going on with them, they're just not the person I used to know, or they're just not acting in the same way, or I just can't understand them anymore. The reason why is because for the most part, they probably can't understand themselves. They are going through this big construction, and because of that, they're also going through emotional development and upheaval and construction as well. And then if you then layer in all of the other aspects of life that they're going through, then that's where the stress is created. Now, how to deal with that stress? That has been a question that's already come up this evening and has been answered in a number of different ways. I would like to extend a few other possibilities to consider when you're either under stress yourself or your child or children are under stress. In many cases, young people tend to really be hard on themselves. They are harder on themselves than anyone is generally hard on them. And as parents, if we exacerbate that, if we give them a hard time for those failures, if we don't give them that acceptance, that support, that understanding that failure will happen, and support them in getting up on their feet again and moving forward, that is a really great way to encourage a much more positive outlook. And you can engineer and be behind what I have here as positive self-talk. Young people really need to develop that positive self-talk and know what they can feel good about. So in many cases, whether it be a test, whether it be an essay, whether it be a negative mark, whether it be not getting into a program that they wanted to get into, this is what they're going to say to themselves. I totally blew it. I can't do it. I suck. And that's going to create a downward spiral that's then going to suck out any of the energy that they have for doing all of the things that they really can do, should do, and are capable of doing. I really truly believe for the most part, people are capable of doing anything they really want to and really set their mind to. I deeply believe that. So if we encourage that, if we give that message, if we inspire our kids with that message, that's going to help propel them forward. It might give them that voice of reason when all they're feeling is self-doubt. So instead of the negative self-talk, practice with your kids the positive self-talk, the other side of it, what they can do better next time, that they don't need to be perfect, that there is a chance to come back and try again. And just to connect to something that Ali said earlier about getting involved in other experiences, having other outlets, other involvements, whether it be part-time work or whatever it may be, volunteerism, even just going to the gym and working out, which in itself, as has been mentioned, exercise is an incredible reliever of stress. Even taking the dog for a walk. Even sometimes just taking a 10-minute break to go outside, breathe some fresh air, and look at the flowers growing. All of these things can truly change your mindset and change your perspective. And interestingly enough, I didn't say this earlier, but perception is everything. Because we ourselves convince ourselves of certain things, and then our perspective changes based on our own thoughts. But we can change those thoughts, and therefore our own perspective. So that is your job, to help your kids develop that positive perspective, to make them see other avenues, other possibilities. Another thing too that we have as well in that negative voice, we often have absolute thinking. I always, I never, I can't. And again, exaggerated thinking or mind reading. Oh, my teacher thinks I'm an idiot because I failed my math test. Or, oh no, now I failed my test. I'm going to completely ruin my life. I'm not going to get my degree. I'm not going to go forward. And then again, we're in panic mode. We're in fight and flight mode. We have undermined our own ability to move forward in a constructive way. So again, what we need to do is when we find our children or our child thinking in this way, perhaps think of ways, very constructive ways, or things you can say or things you can do with your child that might just change the focal point, change the perception, and move them forward from that place. Even if it's something as simple as, hey, how about going out for lunch today? Or how about going to buy that thing you need? And when you go out, that's your chance to talk. Sometimes chatting in the car or when you're walking is the best possible way to track your kid and really have a chance to have that dialogue begin and have those crucial conversations that need to be had. And again, you need to help your kids watch their thinking, and you need to help them use positive thinking tips to become better communicators and practice it with them. Which then leads us into the next portion of our presentation, which is finances. So for everybody later, my apologies. I do have handouts for you to take with you on the essential components that were discussed and reviewed here, and I'm happy to answer any other questions later. Thanks again.
So in fact, we will have a little question period now. It's another break in time for opportunity for questions and answers. We can continue on the discussion of how do we help somebody that's a drifter. And I guess you can pick up the handout that Cindy has prepared.